Hi, everyone. My name is Trish, the Core.Behavioral.Therapist, and my guest today is Nathan Canto. He is the creative pastor for Hillsong SF, Hillsong San Francisco. Nathan also attended Hillsong College in Sydney, Australia for approximately 3 years. And I'm in the choir, and his wife pretty much
Yes, you are.
directs the choir and whatnot, or the team, and Nathan is head of Hillsong SF as far as music and worship is concerned, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Well, thanks, Nathan, for coming. I'm so excited.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. So Nathan is going to be a dad soon.
Yes, I am. We are T-minus 13 days until the due date.
Oh,
And so we're excited. We're ready. This is our first, and we're having a girl, and
yay.
I cannot wait. So apparently I decided to wear a pink shirt because I'm having a girl.
Nice. Awesome. That's awesome. We need more girls in the world.
Come on.
So yeah, but so Nathan spoke to me and a group, and I just had to have him on my podcast. This podcast, Nathan, as you know, is about mental health. I talked to you a little bit about it. With everything that's going on now, first I want to ask you this question, and then we can get into what you taught us, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Sure. So there's a lot of controversy with worship and the church and being indoors and whatnot. What's your take on this? Since you are part of a global church, and yeah, I'm wondering what's your opinion about that's happening.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and at the end of the day, I can really only speak for myself and from my
Yes.
perspective. Um, for me personally, this has been a really interesting season when it comes to, I think for us as the church, our worship and what our worship means to us. And it's obvious worship has been an aspect and a part of our faith from the very beginning, from for all the way back to, you look back to ancient Judaism, and it's like worship was an active part of their liturgy, what they did. It is a way and manner in which they connected with God.
Right.
And I think for us in modern day, obviously with the modernization of the church, when it comes to worship and aspect of creativity and songs and corporate worship and singing together, um, it, that paired with the word is such a centerpiece
Yeah.
of everything we do. Even for us as Hillsong Church, people like our senior pastor always says, people come for the worship and they come for the word. And we always start our services with worship. It's like 20 minutes every time we worship, we come into the presence of God and we sing together, and it's such a powerful tool. But to your point and to your question, there's been a whole lot of controversy, a whole lot of different opinions, and realistically, it's just such a unique season where, in many ways, we have not been able to gather like that, like we would normally. Obviously, because of social distancing guidelines, restrictions on venues, how many people can be around, all those different kind of things. And I think we as the church miss it.
Yeah.
That being said, I think for me personally,
Yes.
what this season has highlighted is that worship does not only mean our worship in song.
Right.
For me and from my personal perspective, if anything this season has solidified in my heart and my mind, is that my worship is actually my life and how I live it and how I continually connect with God. Now, worship through song obviously is a beautiful tool given to us by God in order to connect with Him, to proclaim the truth of who He is and everything. But I would challenge the notion of our worship being taken away simply by the fact that we can't sing in the same room.
Right.
Because if our worship only goes as deep as the songs we sing, then we've got a little bit of a problem.
Right.
And that's something that we really, really got to be mindful of when it comes to this. So for me personally, 100%, there's been a whole lot of controversy and people will think differently, and I think that's okay. But for me, my worship personally goes so much deeper than just the songs we sing. That being said, I miss it a ton and I love it. I'm a creative. I'm a worship leader. I miss the atmosphere of the room, and I can't wait for the day when we can do that regularly how we used to. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts.
No, I love that. That's so good because you said it's about connecting to God and it's within yourself. And I think some people feel worship is you have to be amongst other people to sing, to worship,
Hmm.
but really to feel the presence of God, the song is within you, the worship is
Yeah.
within you. So yeah, I feel like this season people are connecting or having more of a relationship with God. Some people are having more of a connection with God actually. Because there's no visible worship where there's a bunch of people in one room. So thanks for answering that. That
No,
was
yeah.
yeah, that was a controversial topic because I do see a lot of people worshiping in Sacramento, California, or in DC, and some people are saying, "Well, why aren't they wearing masks? Why there no protection?" So thanks for
Yeah.
answering. Yeah,
No, no worries. And I think on that as well, it's like at the end of the day, you can never control or tell people how or in which manner they should worship.
right,
But I think what it comes back to ultimately, there's 100% of power in corporate worship, but ultimately our relationship with Jesus is not found um, with how many people were around. It's found in the secret places, in the quiet places, in our time with Jesus, in our time with God, or however or whoever that is. Like that, like for you, that is the of utmost importance, the relationship between you and God. And
right.
sometimes I think that's the thing we have to focus on is our relationship with Jesus, our relationship with God. And maybe sometimes maybe not as close. Yeah. I'll stop there. I'll say that.
You got it. You got it. You raised a point. Actually, I was thinking when you said that when you said you're a god, there's also you temples and mosques and people of other faiths also want to come together and worship. So they're
Yeah.
also going through it as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
I really liked some of the points that you brought up. Would you mind telling us some of the points? Because a lot of it had to do with mental health. It's basic. Nathan spoke to us about preparing yourself for ministry, but I honestly feel it could be also preparing yourself for your work day or just your
Yeah.
everyday life or being a mother or a father or or a grandparent raising your grandson or something. So
Mhm.
do you mind sharing some of those points? Do you have them?
Yeah, definitely. I'll try to remember them. What I really talked about was, I think the whole idea was about checking your gauges in your life, like
Yeah,
checking your personal gauges, your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, your emotional health, and all of these things are not like separate of each other, but they're so intertwined, and hence, like for me, the image that came to like the image that came to mind was how like a vehicle operates. Like a lot of us would have a vehicle, and there's always that scary thing that happens when the check engine light comes on,
right.
and then you're like, oh no, something's wrong, I gotta go fix this. Or maybe you're the person that goes like, it's probably fine, we'll probably go another like couple thousand miles on it and nothing's going on. But like
Right.
that something like a check engine light could be as simple as you forgot to tighten the gas cap properly, all the way down to there's an issue with your timing belt, and then all of a sudden your pistons are off, and then you have a major engine malfunction. You really got to take it in. And
Yeah.
so I kind of talked through the different aspects or the different gauges, I think. And I think it was three different gauges that I kind of talked about.
Yeah.
Um, that were really, really important. I think the first one was obviously your fuel gauge. I think for a lot of people, um, this one is sometimes often the most neglected, but probably the most important to see like a vehicle move. You can't go anywhere without gas. You can have
Yeah.
the entire frame, you can have the engine, you can have everything, but if it doesn't have fuel in it, you're not going anywhere. And I think for us as humans, we really got to make sure that our fuel gauge is good. Like we're refueling emotionally, we're refueling personally, we're refueling spiritually, whatever that looks like. And for me, one of the things like I really, really love doing, I'm kind of an introvert. So like sometimes just going out, I love archery. I'm into archery. And so I'll just like go out to an archery range and just go and shoot at targets for an hour or so. And that just refuels my soul. Like no matter how long of a day or a week I've had, that's something that I can go and I know I can come back and feel better. I can feel more clear-headed, and as well as like for me, like I am a little bit introverted, but I'm also like relationships are foundational
Yeah.
to every aspect of life for me. It's like I hate doing life alone. And so going and spending time with the right people and having the right conversations, like that for me fuels me. And so for me, like that, those are like, that's kind of like the fuel tank emotionally and physically, as well as like spiritually, like where I'm going to like
Yeah.
get filled spiritually. And like for me, that's the word of God in the Bible. And like going to that fills me, praying fills me. And so that was kind of the first cage I talked about,
Yeah.
is making sure we have the fuel to
Hmm.
keep going.
So kind of
um
like feeding yourself, right, with the fuel to keep going for what you're supposed to be doing, whether it's your
totally
career or yeah, but also feeding yourself with the things you enjoy to do. So basically living your life with for also having fun. You're not just living your life with a
100%.
purpose, you're living your life to also do some self-care. Like you love archery,
Absolutely.
right? So
Yeah.
that's something you love. So you
Yeah,
that fills you.
absolutely. And that's the thing, is like sometimes we can get so into this mindset that like um like if I'm not accomplishing something, I'm going nowhere. But like sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself and for the people whom you do life with is give your healthy self. And so if that means, like tuning out and reading a good book with a glass of wine,
Yeah,
do it, because that fills your soul and that makes sure that you're good for everybody else and everybody you come in contact
absolutely.
with. If that's like kicking back for an hour and playing Minecraft or playing a video game, like cool, like do that. Like find your space, find your time for you to grow. Like if that's going out and hanging out with a great friend, like do that, make space. Like life, I wholeheartedly believe God did not create us to trudge through life.
Right.
He actually created us to flourish and to love life.
So
And
good.
there are things that like I think God allows us to enjoy, if that's going and seeing a movie or going and doing what have you. Like those things, like completely separate of any accomplishment or any like feeling like you're moving forward in life. I think those things are important, just pure and simple things we enjoy doing that have no attachment towards any sort of progress.
Yeah. I think that's so good, Nathan, because when you said that, it had me think about how some people may feel guilty about doing this and doing things that they enjoy, where they feel like they're go, 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 work, 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 progress, progress, progress. Like that's what I was thinking about when what you just said.
Yeah.
So that's such a good point. That's such
Yeah.
a great point.
And I think on that too, it's like, again, taking into consideration different personalities, I would say my wife and I are the most vastly different personalities to ever come together, which I love because
She's
you know her,
awesome, by
you
the
know
way.
this.
Des, shout out to
Yes,
Des. She looks
yes,
beautiful.
I love my wife.
He's about to give
And
birth soon.
I love that she's so different than me too, because she challenges me to grow in different ways, and vice versa. I challenge her to grow in different ways. Like for instance, we recently went on a vacation down to Carmel just to spend a few days, relax. It was like our little last trip, baby moon, a month or so back.
I love that.
And
Awesome.
but
Baby.
what I think what we realized on that trip
Mhm.
was we recover and we feel so differently.
Oh wow. Okay.
Like for me, I was happy to just go eat food, sit
Hmm.
back, watch a couple YouTube videos, relax, and we kind of did this together. And Des was like, "I don't feel rested." We
Right.
went down to a little shop. We found a book on photography, which is something she loves doing. Is does really well, um, but it was a training book. It was actually something that
Right.
was going to help her grow in a skill set. So I
Wow. But
think
she's
there are,
phenomenal already. Like,
yeah,
wow, she could teach people how to do
yeah,
photography.
and there are things, I think, depending on your personality, there are 100% things you could do and enjoy, um, that refuel your soul, that still can cause you and force you to rest. Like
Mhm.
for me, switching off is my way to rest. For Des, it's learning something new. And so I think it's finding those things based upon your personality, like what fuels your soul, what fuels your heart, what fuels your mind. And so, um, yeah, that was kind of my first point about of the one of the gauges.
I love that. I love that. I feel like this time people are some people are enjoying the rest, some people are not, but some people are also like, wait, this is a great time to start this or to do this. I didn't have time
Absolutely.
before. So that's awesome. Yeah. You did a
Yeah.
second point too. Do you remember?
Yeah. The second the second point was the check engine light. Oh, so there was actually three main points I made, which was like the check engine light and the tire
Tire. I
pressure light.
remember the tire. Yeah.
Yeah. The check engine light was, we obviously, there are things that are going to need adjustments in our lives, and that anything, the check engine light, this is the engine, this is the light that you feel like you're feeling like something's off and something's got to change. And I
Mhm.
think the greatest gift we can ever give to our own souls and our own minds is forgiveness and the understanding that we're not perfect.
Yeah.
And so, and on top of that, the flexibility and the courage to actually change things in our life to help us be better. So that was kind of that. And it's like, again, like that could range from anything, like when we're talking about an engine, this could be anything from you just didn't screw the gas cap on right to like a major transmission malfunction. And so in our lives, whether it's relationships that need adjusting, whether it's like how we communicate that needs adjusting, maybe it's actually a mindset that needs to be adjusted,
So
or a
good. That's right.
perspective that we've held this for so long. like for me, perspective has always been one of the most important things in my life, because your perspective is really realistically a lens and through which you view life.
Right.
I could have a like a lens that is clouded. Like, these are blue light glasses, by the way. I actually don't need glasses. I just wear them just because. Um,
That's all right.
but yeah,
These are real glasses because
yeah.
I've been wearing glasses since I was like in the second grade.
So like, for instance, like these glasses,
Mhm.
they eliminate blue light, or that's what they're supposed to do. I don't know how effective they are. I don't know
Wow, I never
really
heard
about.
of these type of glasses,
Yeah,
by the way. Wow.
yes,
Okay.
blue light glasses. They're
Mhm.
meant to help you sleep better and kind of like not strain your eyes if you're looking at a computer screen all day, kind of thing.
That's
But
awesome.
the
Blue light glasses. Where did
blue
you get
light
them?
glasses,
Oh, well, you don't have
Amazon.
to say. Oh, Amazon. Okay. Hey, no, this is great. I mean, this is new information for me because
Yeah,
people do suffer from migraines and
yeah.
not from bright lights. So yeah, I totally get. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. So, like, for instance,
Right.
I'll filter. This is a filter. This is a perspective that allows me to look at things differently.
Mhm.
And so, I think in life, we can have a perspective of pessimism, or we can have a perspective of optimism. And I think that is something that controls and dictates so much of our heart health, our mind health,
Right.
because you can go into any given situation and say, well, nobody's going to want to talk to me, or I'm just not good at something, or you can go into with the perspective of like, okay, maybe I'm not good at it, but that means I can learn.
Right.
Or okay, maybe I don't know anybody in this situation, but that just gives me an opportunity to make new relationships. And so I think
Yeah.
any way is like, I've always been a very, very optimistic guy. And so I don't have I know I am very aware that this is not an easy thing to do, but it's also a muscle you strengthen.
That's
I
right.
believe it's you get to choose the perspective and the lens through which you view life in every situation you walk into, and you have the choice of that. Um, yeah,
That's awesome. That sounds like self-reflection. It sounds like stopping and thinking and then choosing how to act. For me, that's called meta moments, what you
yeah,
just described. And that's so key. And a lot of thinking and self-reflection and trying to figure out, okay, and stopping yourself and then thinking about, okay, what's the next action? I can choose to be this way or I can choose to be this way. And the lens,
totally.
the perspective, that's key. That's so good. It's true.
100%, because ultimately it comes back to just knowing yourself. And
Right.
I as like for me, I'm really passionate about leadership, and in that context where we're talking about, it was like a kind of to a group of leaders and talking through like healthy leadership. And
Right.
I think the self-aware leader is one of the greatest leaders you can ever have,
Yeah.
because they're self-aware to know that they're not perfect, they don't have it all together, and they may not have all the answers, but they're willing to grow and move through it. And so that's where it kind of all stemmed out of that conversation of like, how do we as human beings, and this goes beyond just leaders, I think as human beings, we would get along a whole lot better. We'd be able to figure a whole lot more out in our relationships if we were just self-aware enough
Yeah.
to actually have an honest conversation, or to hear honest feedback from
Right.
people into our lives and everything. And so that
So
like
good. Yeah.
that and that's the thing, is like that check engine light, when it comes on, it is not biased. It is not like trying to get a dig at you and saying you're a bad driver. It's not, it's just say like, hey, something's wrong. And I think we all kind of have those moments in our life where it's like, you just feel like, the check engine light is going on. It's like, oh my gosh, something's wrong.
Hmm.
And that in itself is not a bad thing. It's actually a great thing
It's a
that you're
great
able
thing.
to
Yep.
aware and go like, something's got to change. And
Exactly.
that's good. Like, we're meant to change. We're meant to grow. We're meant to move forward. We're meant to do all these things. And so that was my second point. And then
Well, I want to go back to that because it's so
yeah,
good.
okay.
So so when you were saying that, people that could be listening right now, people that are listening right now who are struggling, okay, they have figured out, or they're like, okay, this is wrong with me. What I'm thinking is that it takes a lot of vulnerability and transparency to speak it out to somebody, to
Mm,
someone that you trust, so then they can walk with you and help you with, hey, I can help you with these
absolutely.
things. Don't beat yourself up about these things. This is a good thing. Like you said, that you found this out about yourself, and it could be something minor, it could be something major, but
Mhm.
I can help you. So I think that's because as humans, we need that, being that we're in the Zoom world now where we need that kind of connection. So yeah, that's so good.
Yes.
Nathan. So good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your third point? Thanks for
Yeah.
that.
So my third point, so like the first one we had, you the fuel, you check your fuel gauge, where you at in your fuel gauge. The second one was obviously your check engine light, and that can mean a whole lot of different things in your life. And the last one, which is probably one of my personal favorites, is your tire pressure. It's that little weird like shaped one, and it has like the grip on the bottom and everything. I remember the first time the my tire pressure um, indicator came on, and I was like, what is that? I actually don't know what that is. So I like flipped open the manual, tried to find it. I'm like, oh my gosh, my tire pressure is low. And so like, for like, obviously we're aware of this, like nobody wants a flat tire. Like,
Yeah,
a
right.
flat tire doesn't have its structure, it doesn't have its rigidity, it's not healthy for the car. The tire blows out and everything. But also on the flip side of that, like, you actually don't want an overinflated tire. Like,
Right.
an overinflated tire can be just as dangerous
It
as
can
like,
explode on
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Yeah.
it could explode. You
Right.
don't get as good grip, like with when you're when you have an overinflated tire, you're reducing the tire effectiveness to actually grip the road that you're on. So you could actually are in danger of like sliding out or losing control of the car, kind of thing. So it's about finding, like, every car and every tire has its own unique um,
Right.
PSI that you center, or you fill the tire to. And also, like, this is what I love, like, for instance, our car, they're all set to 32 PSI. And that's actually year round, but we actually had another car that was set to, it was like 30 in the summer, and another pressure in the winter. So it actually changed based upon the seasons, based upon the temperature. And so for me, I love this analogy of like tire pressure, because I don't believe in our lives we're ever meant to live pressure free. I
Right.
think sometimes we can look at pressure as like this P word, and it's this bad thing,
Right.
but it's actually something that helps us grow. It challenges us. Like, there are such things as healthy pressures in our lives that challenge us to grow in certain areas. Um, for instance, when it comes to archery, it actually takes pressure and tension to propel an arrow forward. If it didn't have pressure and tension, the
Right.
arrow would not go forward. In the same way, like a car, if there's not the right pressure in the tire is not at its optimal effectiveness. And that's, I think, for us in our lives, I think if we're finding in our workplace there are things that are challenging us, that are causing us to grow, that is right where we're meant to be. Like,
Right.
if we found ourselves in a place in our lives where everything is going smoothly, like, well, great for you.
You're
Like,
not gonna
that's awesome.
right,
Like, yeah,
exactly.
you're not going to grow. Like,
Yeah,
you're not going to continue to move forward. You're not going to be sharpened. You're not going to be developed. So pressure in our lives can actually be a really, really great thing. Now, I think this is really, really important because every person and individual and leader is different.
right.
And
Yeah,
not everybody has the same amount of capacity for pressure as other people do. And that's okay. And I don't think capacity for pressure is any sort of indicator of, well, they're because they can take more pressure, they're a better leader, or vice versa. No,
right.
I
Everyone's
think
different, but yeah, it doesn't mean like one is better than the next or anything like that.
100%, 100%. What I think makes a better leader is a leader who understands the pressure in which they can push themselves to.
Right,
And
right,
so, like in all of our lives, we have to find that place of healthy tension in our lives. And sometimes look at tension as not a bad thing and not a problem to solve, but a tension to manage.
right.
And so that's for me, I think one of the most important things as leaders is you don't grow without tension. You don't build muscle without pressure on it and tension and working it out and soreness and like,
Oh,
oh my gosh,
true.
that sucked. Like, you
Yeah,
don't grow in strength. Like, you don't become a better runner by never running.
right,
You don't get faster by never pushing yourself.
right.
Like, so I think there are things in our lives where sometimes it's super easy to go, well, that's athletics, but actually it comes to our leadership, it comes to our workplaces, it comes to our work lives. If we want to become a better individual in our field, we actually have to be pressed to be better in our field. We
Absolutely.
actually have to have the tension to go like, you know what? I want to be better. So I'm going to put myself in a situation where I am required to be better.
Right. And then also ask yourself, because what I'm hearing, I'm also, this is so good. What also ask yourself, okay, what am I learning from this pressure? What am I learning from
So
it? You know?
100%. And I think that's the thing where it's like, what am I learning from this? It's like, oh, it's actually highlighting an area of weakness that I can get better at.
Right.
Or it's highlighting an area that, wow, I'm feeling pressure in this, but everybody keeps coming to me to actually make this happen. Maybe this is actually area of strength that I'm continually being leaned on because I'm good at it. So it's
Good. Yeah. It's an
like
area of strength because you could meet someone later down the road who was struggling with that same issue or that same pressure that you were dealing with. And here you are stronger because you overcame and you can help that person.
absolutely, absolutely.
So good. Yeah.
Instead of running away from pressure, I think sometimes we should run towards it. Now, that being said, this is where talking about the check engine light and all this kind of, we have to be aware emotionally, physically, and mentally of who we are, how we operate, and only you can know.
Right.
Um, Pressure is not something we should shy away from, but like we said, with an overfilled tire, you can lose control or you can have a blowout, which nobody wants. Like, nobody wants to overload their lives. And we're not saying go out there and just get in above over your head.
No, no, no.
Um, but I think there's a health to finding a place, finding a good tension in your life of pressure that causes you to grow in the things personally, emotionally, leadership, skill based. So yeah, that was kind of the
That's
gist of the conversation
phenomenal.
we had.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Thank you so much, Nathan. I'm so glad that Nathan came on to talk to us about this because it's just so good, especially during this time. Your mind is racing and you're just going through all kinds of things and hearing this, it's like, hey, it's okay not to be okay, but we're gonna find strength and resilience from all.
100%. I
Thank you
love
so
that.
much, Nathan. Thank you.
No
If
worries. Thank you.
if anyone wants to contact you, can they contact you on Instagram or do you or nothing?
100% Instagram or my email. Email is probably better. I have to be very honest. I'm not great at
Okay.
Instagram. It kind of exhausts me.
Okay. I
Maybe
hear
that's one of those tensions I got to get better at managing. Um, but my yeah, people can 100% reach out to me at my email at nathan.canto@hillsong.com. I'm happy to have any conversations around leadership and life and health. I'm passionate about this. For me, I'm personally passionate about seeing people healthy, people loving life, and people whole.
I love
And
that.
not just getting by in life and skimping or limping through life, but really like tackling life Not that it's easy. I don't think it was ever meant to be easy.
No.
I don't think anything that's worth it is easy.
If it's
Um,
easy, you're not learning and you're not
yeah,
growing. Simple as that.
100%, 100%.
Thanks so much, Nathan. So good to have you on.
No, thank you so much, Trisha, for having me.
Okay, bye. Bye,
See ya.
everyone. Thanks for joining.